Today on the Disruptive Voices of the Pacific podcast, I am joined by a young woman who has founded a brand new group called Talano Mama. Her name is Mercedes Swan. Welcome, Mercedes.
Thank you, Letitia. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, so great to have you. And I'm just excited to be talking to you, someone who has seen, I guess, a problem, a gap in your culture, in your people, and you've stepped up to the plate to bring a solution. So maybe just tell us a little bit about what Talanoa Mama is all about.
Yeah, so I found out I was pregnant in December, and living in Fiji, I went throughout my pregnancy and expected to go through some things, and then some things were complete surprises. I was really surprised most of all by my emotional highs and lows I was going through. I was under a lot of stress during the first half of my pregnancy, while also being a full-time student and having family responsibilities, and also my husband working 2 hours away from me. I was just really stressed. And it got to the point where I wasn't looking after myself and not resting enough. And I started to get into a really bad place mentally. I hadn't ever gone through such difficult mental health challenges until pregnancy. And I was surprised that I was capable of feeling some of the things I was feeling and having some of the thoughts I had. And some of the thoughts I had was, in all honesty, wanting to hurt myself. Thankfully, I have a very understanding and supportive family who were able to just listen and be compassionate. But I started to wonder, are there other mothers who feel the same way when they're pregnant or in postpartum? I had heard of postpartum depression, but didn't really know anyone that had been through it. And so as I started to talk to my sisters and my mother and my aunties and friends, I started to find out that a lot of them had gone through some sort of similar thing that I had been through, whether it was depressive symptoms or anxiety or had had very traumatic births. And as I started to learn more and more, I felt really amazed that I didn't know any of these things and that no one was really talking about these things. And so I wanted to find a group of women that I could talk to. And it was really hard to find one. But I did find a group out of America called Postpartum Support International. They provide these amazing free support groups for parents. And so I went to a few of those and enjoyed that, but I found that I didn't feel like I could speak up about some of the issues that we face here in the Pacific. That cultural aspect, it didn't really feel like the right setting to bring it up in. And so I wanted to find something more local and where I could talk about these things. And I didn't really find one. And so I just decided to start a support group myself. And along with the support group, a social media campaign, you could call it, to really bring awareness to some of these issues, to bring some of the stories of what women were going through during pregnancy, birth, and postpartum to the attention of the public. And so that's kind of where Mama Talano really all started. This was just a couple months ago that we started actually, but it's been amazing to see how many women have either messaged me personally or have publicly commented on the different posts that I put out, their stories, their trauma they've been through during birth, their experiences with postpartum depression and anxiety and other things. And it's been very humbling for me to meet these women virtually, to connect with them and to bring their stories to light.
Yeah, wow. So it's really just been out of your own experience and journey that way. Yeah, and quite often that seems to be the issue when people are starting up new things. So what have you discovered among the women that you're beginning to talk to?
So when these women sign up for the support group, I have them share with me what do they want to get out of the support group. Some of the things that I've noticed or like kind of common themes I've seen, is that a lot of these women just feel lonely. Don't feel like they have a place to go where they can talk openly without being judged about the experiences of motherhood. Motherhood has some beautiful aspects to it, and I think we're all familiar with the wonderful parts of motherhood, but it has some really, I don't want to say ugly, but it has these not so pretty parts of it that women sometimes feel ashamed to talk about. For me, it was feeling like I wanted to hurt myself. That's something that I wouldn't normally share with most people, but I felt like I could share it with people I trusted. So having a space, these women really want a space to talk openly without being judged. And what better than to talk with other moms who may be able to relate to them. Another thing I've noticed is that these women are want to know how they can better support their mental health. A lot of them are not coping well with stress of having kids. Some of these women are onto their fourth children or fifth and are also working full time. They are also, some of them are single moms or have experienced pregnancy loss as well. I had a mother message me the other day who had just lost her mother a month ago, and so was having a hard time navigating pregnancy without her mom, who was such an important part of her support group or her, supportive people around her. So I'm seeing a lot of loneliness and a lot of um, women not really knowing how to cope with all these mental challenges that come with motherhood.
Do you find that surprising in a culture that is so community orientated? Quite often you're living in each other's pockets and homes. Is the loneliness just because, not because no one's around, but just because we don't talk and you're suffering in silence?
I believe that's exactly right. We are surrounded by people all the time, and we live in multi-generational households a lot of the time where you'll have grandparents, your mother or your mother-in-law, but being physically present is very different from being emotionally present for someone. And that is something that I don't think a lot of families in the Pacific know how to do. It's something we're still learning is, how can we not just be there for a new mom physically by cooking her meals, holding her baby, letting her take a shower, but how can we ask her, are you okay? How are you feeling?
Mhm.
Those sorts of things are a lot harder to do. It's not something that's really, I think, inherent in our Pacific Island culture. So we can be surrounded by a lot of people, like you said, but still feel lonely, still feel like I have no one to talk to.
I noticed on your page, you've got a great Facebook presence. Encourage everyone to go there. You had some statistics around postpartum depression. Like the global statistics, they're really high, but in Fiji, the Fijian statistics are really low, but that's because people aren't being diagnosed. Is that what you would say?
Yes. So that post that you were talking about, there was a study done, I think end of last year, the results came out on FBC News, where 17 women were diagnosed with postpartum depression over a 5-year period.
In
That's
Fiji.
in Fiji. That's
Mm,
for a 5-year period. But we know that globally, 1 in 10 women experience postpartum depression. And so it doesn't take, a mathematician to figure out that a lot more women should have been diagnosed in that time. Hundreds, if not thousands of women should have been diagnosed. If you take just, 1 out of 10 of all the moms that gave birth in the last 5 years, that amounts to a lot more women than just 17. And so we are not screening for postpartum depression or other perinatal mood disorders when moms go to their baby clinics. We're not screening when they're going to their prenatal appointments. This should be something that is screened for because a mother's mental health is such a big part of her health. Um, and it has a big role in how she's able to look after her baby and her family.
yeah. What does screening look like? Is it just asking some questions, or what are the signs that you pick up?
Yeah, so usually when a pregnant woman, what should happen is when a pregnant woman comes in or a woman who's at postpartum, let's say it's the 6-week baby check where baby gets their, 6-week immunizations, mom should be asked a series of questions. There's a standard survey I forget what the exact name is, but it asks questions about her social support. For example, do you feel that you have someone to talk to when you are lonely, or do you feel you have enough help, or how confident are you in your ability to go into motherhood. It also asks about questions around violence. Are you experiencing violence? Do you feel safe around your partner? So we should really be asking these questions as early as possible, preferably when a woman is coming to her first prenatal appointment. She should be asked those questions, because that really sets her up for success. If she can have good mental health, if she can be screened, diagnosed, and given the support she needs before she gives birth, she's going to have a lot better chance of having a much happier and more supportive postpartum experience.
Yeah, so it's not a hard thing to insert, really. Something so simple. So why do you think it's not happening?
That's a great question. I can't speak for the whole health system, but I do know from experience in Fiji, when I've been to doctors, I'll probably spend 10 minutes with them, if that, where, it's just quick in and out. What's the problem? All right, let's give you a prescription. You're out of there. So I think the time that women are given to spend with
Mm.
a doctor is a big part of it. And we know that our healthcare system is under a lot of strain with such few health workers compared to the need. And so understandably, our prenatal appointments are very short. They're very minimal. They're just going to focus on the bare minimum. Is mom okay? Is baby healthy? Nothing more than that. And so we really need to fix this problem, we really need the whole health system to be boosted in terms of the number of doctors. Perhaps maybe instead of a doctor doing all those screenings, we could do what's called task shifting, where instead the nurse may be able to ask those questions to a new mom. Midwifery, we don't have a lot of midwives in Fiji. There are some amazing midwives, especially those that work at the McCoy birthing unit. They're amazing, but there are not enough. There's a shortage of midwives in Fiji.
Mm.
So we need the whole healthcare system to improve so that we can better screen for things like postpartum depression, but also just depression and mental health disorders in all people that come into the hospital.
Yeah. I mean, what a relief, say in your instance and so many more. And I saw your interview with your mother on your page too, sharing about how she was suicidal when she was pregnant with you. I mean, this is kind of stuff that can really cause you to question yourself, who you are as a woman, but to realize, I mean, to be diagnosed saying, no, you've actually got depression here. It's treatable. You're going to be okay. You're going to get through it. What a relief that could be to a mother, so that she doesn't have to suffer alone in that space. So well done. Keep talking about it. I see also on your page, women are sharing their stories of cesareans, just trauma around birth. How often is there trauma around the birthing process?
That's a great question. In Fiji, I don't know the specific statistics. Um, from conversations I've had, I wish I knew the exact statistics. Some of these things are just not being measured, but from conversations I've had with women who have given birth in the islands, especially in Fiji, I haven't heard many positive birth experiences. Um, Again, these women are trying to have a positive experience in a very strained healthcare setting where there may not be enough nurses on duty, or doctors may have been working 12-hour shifts back to back. And so birth trauma can happen unintentionally. I don't think it's any healthcare worker's intention for a mom to experience it, but it just happens as a result of um, the lack of attention that a mother needs, because a nurse may be running from one birth to the next birth, and that woman who just gave birth may be needing something more. I have heard from friends, and this may or may not be the standard, but I've had friends who have given birth at the Colonial War Memorial Hospital, CWM, who have said that they weren't able to have their partner come in with them to give birth or during their labor. And that was just because there was not enough space to accommodate a partner. So it was a practicality reason, which is understandable. But then these women go in quite stressed as they go to give birth because they don't have one of the most important people in their lives right next to them. And so it's happening unintentionally, but it is happening, and we need to talk about it and to bring it to light and to hopefully address it.
Yeah. You talked about, going and finding your first support group in America, online, obviously. What were the differences between the American group and what women in the Pacific face that you were talking about that caused you to then start your own group?
Hmm. The group in the US, I found a lot of the participants were able to access mental health outside of the group as well. So they would often mention that they were working with a counselor or a psychologist, or they were on medication for mental health illness. In the Pacific, we don't have a lot of those services where you can meet with a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I think there are some smaller groups starting to provide more counseling, but it's not common, and for moms at least. And so I found the people in the American support group were very they were getting support from not just the support group but other places. As for the women in Mama Talano, I think a lot of them, Mama Talano is it. Like, that's the only time they're ever going to talk about these things. They may never get the opportunity to meet with a counselor or psychologist anytime soon to deal with these things. And so it just makes having the support group that much more crucial to me, because it may be the only help they may get.
Yeah. And do you think, I mean, it's probably still a new word or a new concept in the islands as well? This, the postpartum and prenatal, what did I see? Yeah, the perinatal mood anxiety disorder. I saw that on your page. I'd never heard of that as well. So these are kind of all new concepts, even though we probably felt the feelings for years, but never been able to put a label and identity that can then get help and hope. So what you're doing is raising awareness, helping mothers know that they're not alone and it's not weird and that this has gone on. What about, there might be some grandmothers listening who have had 6 or 7 children and are like, well, we survived, we're fine. They've been through all the trauma and all the depression, and I mean, they're amazing women, but it's a different generation now, isn't it? So how important is it that we speak about these things and not just soldier on, because our forefathers and mothers have?
Such a good question. And I've been told that too. Oh, I had less support than you and I was fine. So you'll be fine. I admire the strength of those women, of my own grandmothers, anyone who went through childbirth prior to really, the 2000s, because back then mental health really was not talked about or even known or understood. I I think it is so important to learn from their strength and acknowledge how strong they were, to do that without any support, but also to use what we know now about mental health um, to create a better future for our daughters and our sisters who are now giving birth. Um, there's a, yeah, I think it's important to have these conversations with the older generation and to not, criticize them for what they may or may not have done, but to talk to them about what they may have gone through. And it may be that they need some healing as well, and that talking about it may be such a healing experience. I'm currently staying with my grandmother, and she went through some very horrific things in some of her 5 birthing experiences. And I don't think she realized that some of those things were postpartum depression. and that they were probably, there was birth trauma that happened as well. But being able to talk about that with her is really eye-opening for me. It also makes me grateful that I live at this time and that I can talk more openly about it. But the conversations I've had with her have been really have brought us closer together as we've talked openly about it, and have really been insightful for me, and hopefully healing for her. So I think we need to have these conversations not just with people my age or those that are giving birth at this time, but also the generations before.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. What about the area of miscarriages? Again, quite a lot of women experience those. Where can they find support or grieve that?
When I started this support group, I didn't just want to help those that are giving birth now or are able to have children. I went through a period before I got pregnant where I didn't think I was able to have children, and that was really difficult for me. I recognize that my short time of, feeling like I may have had problems with having kids, is really minuscule compared to women who may be trying for years or have had gone through miscarriage or abortion. And so I would really love that one day, as Mama Talano continues to grow, that we can expand into um, starting a support group for women who have experienced pregnancy loss. I'd also love to create one for single moms because they have very unique needs as well. So unfortunately, it's most of the what's going on is just on me. I wish I could, replicate myself, but I am hoping that as the group grows, I'll be able to find other facilitators that will be able to facilitate these online Zoom sessions, and that we could create one specifically for pregnancy loss.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. You just start and you build the plane as you go quite often. So well done. If women want to join, I mean, just tell us, how often do you meet? How can they join? What does a typical group look like?
So we meet every fortnight on Thursday evenings at 8 p.m. Fiji time. Um, it's online through Zoom. And so on the Mama Talanoa Facebook and Instagram, there's a sign up link. It'll just take you to a Google form and you just fill that out. It's completely free. And once you've signed up, you'll get emails reminding you every fortnight of when the next session is. And so it's really just come whenever you're able to. Moms are busy people. Um, with lots of other responsibilities. So there's no pressure to come every time. We just want moms to show up when they feel the need to show up. But yes, I encourage all women to join who, if you are pregnant or within 2 years of postpartum, that's really the group of women that this group is set up for.
Mm.
And yeah, they can always message the page if they have any questions on either Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah, wow. And you're about to give birth in August, so things might slow down for a few weeks, especially if your baby's born on a Thursday,
Yeah.
Thursday night.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, well done, Mercedes. It's just a fascinating conversation, an important one. As many people know, I've been kind of scratching around the surface of abortion in Fiji and finding out what a big issue that is. But so many women said they wouldn't have had an abortion if there was support. So I could imagine, a woman who finds herself pregnant, begins to feel depression, anxiety, suicide thoughts. So it's just too much. So they abort. So again, this is a great space where they can find some support, some other women walking through similar circumstances as them. Any last final words before we finish up?
Well, thank you. I think you bring up such an important point, is that if these women had support, they would have kept their babies. They would have been able to feel like they could do it. They could get through. And if we don't look after our moms, we are not looking after society, because these, women and mothers are raising the next generation, and everything that they experience, they pass on to their daughters, who will then be the mothers of the next generation. And so maternal mental health should be everyone's problem. It shouldn't just be a problem that moms are focused on. I believe partners need to get in there and educate themselves about how they can support their spouse or their partner during pregnancy and postpartum. I believe grandparents and moms and siblings should also get in there and educate themselves, and that this should be part of our normal conversation is to ask a pregnant woman, how are you doing? Ask a woman who just gave birth, how are you feeling? How can I help? And to really listen without judgment. I think that's the best thing that a partner or a family member could do, is to listen without judgment and be there for her emotionally. And I know as we do that, that we'll be able to help moms get through one of the most vulnerable times of their life and do what they were created to do, which is to have children. And what an amazing blessing that women are able to do this. So many women just carry on so bravely without really any help, and I'm amazed by those women every day. So I just want to just say thank you, Letitia, for having me and for letting me share about Mama Talanoa.
Yeah, you're an inspiration. So we look forward to see how you journey through it and how it keeps growing. And we look forward to the birth of your little one. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.